George Kambosos Jr.'s a hunter, and there's another challenge coming his way. Devin Haney has arrived in Australia with a message for Kambosos Jr. Be ready. It's going to be a tough fight for Haney, especially since he arrives for the huge fight without the support of his father. Keep watching as we give you a complete rundown of the blockbuster and much more. First up, Haney's a man of his word. The fight for the ultimate bragging rights has been set as two of the world's top lightweights clash. George Kambosos Jr. and Devin Haney will compete for the WBA, IBF, WBO, WBC, and the Ring lightweight belts on June 4th or June 5th if you're in Australia. The exciting bout will be taking place inside Melbourne's Marvel Stadium. The unbeaten American was upbeat as his crew, except his father and trainer Bill, arrived at Melbourne Airport. Kambosos Jr. taunted his rival with cold feet, but seems like Haney's a man of his word. Before Haney's arrival, fans were worried that he might cancel the blockbuster fight because his father, Bill Haney, had failed to get his entrance visa authorized. This denial is allegedly caused by a past drug conviction in 1992. According to Australian immigration requirements, convicts who have served 12 months or more in jail are ineligible for an ETA, Electronic Travel Authority, or e-visitor visa, which are necessary for short-term stays. The older Haney disclosed his prior criminal record in advance in the hopes of avoiding this scenario, but the matter remained unresolved. What did his father have to say? We can't imagine how heartbreaking it must be for Bill to not be able to be there during his son's fight, especially since he's the head coach. Telling the world that he'd prepared Devin for this moment, especially since he lost his father at the same age, he just about made us shed a tear. Yoel Judah, the father and head trainer of retired former 2-division and undisputed welterweight champion Zab Judah, will prepare Haney, 27-0, 15 KOs, for the impending 4-belt undisputed title. The senior Haney was pretty open about his background, admitting to making mistakes when he was young. He was also candid about helping Devin not make the same choices he did at that age. Only pushed him further. It seems like these fears were for nothing, as rather than jeopardizing his chances in Melbourne, some feel Haney will be pushed even harder without his father. You'd be forgiven for believing everything was well when his group touched down, seemed absolutely pumped. The 23-year-old's camp member called Haney in the best shape of his career as of yet, and the fight would be decided real quick. It seems like the team landed in Australia with a lot of energy, and we'd love to see the Dream bring that into the ring too. Not unlike his nickname, Haney's coming into the fight with some big goals. Not only is he planning to return to the US with 4 belts instead of the one he currently has, but he plans to dominate the Kambosos from start to end. In other words, Haney's going to end it by round 6 and make the Aussie go right to sleep. They'll watch you snore, George. Now that's a big promise to deliver on, Devin. We can only wait and watch to see if he actually is able to do it. Next, Kambosos' deadliest weapon won't work on him. It's no secret how to get into Teofimo Lopez's thoughts. George Kambosos Jr. played mental games to get under the American's skin, and, well, he then grabbed all 3 titles from the American world champion. But if the Australian intends to use similar psychological warfare to topple the undefeated WBC lightweight champion, he might want to rethink his strategy. Haney doesn't care what the Emperor has to say about him because he believes he will come out on top on June 5th. Kambosos Jr., on the other hand, had been pulling Haney down, arguing that his early career triumphs in Mexico were not at the level of amateur contests. That level of contempt would elicit an immediate rise from most boxers, but not the American lightweight champ. Haney's not going to fall into the same trap as Lopez, but it's fine by him if the 28-year-old Aussie doesn't give him the respect he thinks he deserves, because when boxing history's at stake, respect means nothing, especially when you have the chance of becoming the youngest undisputed champion. Haters be hating. Let's face it, Haney's not going to have a lot of supporters when he steps out to Marvel Stadium in front of a 50,000-strong pro-Kambosos Jr. audience. But once again, the American is planning to embrace the animosity by giving the home audience a cause to rally behind him when his hand is finally raised. Speaking of animosity, at last month's news conference, Kambosos Jr. struck a chord when he claimed Haney was picked to fight him rather than earning his opportunity at the undefeated Australian. WBC middleweight champion Jermell Charlo had similar thoughts earlier this week, but Haney now has even more motive to refute that illusion when he walks into the ring. A fighter makes many sacrifices. Fighters give up all sorts of things before a fight, but George Kambosos Jr. has chosen chastity. Well, he joked about how he already already had 3 kids, the Australian was serious about his game plan and the prohibition. All jokes aside, there's a legit reason for the theory, which is popular among many combat athletes. It's a sacrifice the star fighter makes that pushes him a further 0.1% advantage, which is sometimes enough to get over the line. When asked what motivates him to take down the younger fighter, Kambosos Jr.'s answer was short and sweet: legacy. He owed his motivation to not only his country, but also his family. He wanted to inspire his kids, and all the kids in Australia, with his hard work and dedication to the sport. The 4-belt champ has established a reputation as one of Australia's most determined and single-minded athletes. But can he defeat the raging bull that's Haney? Now, in other related news, Bivol's search for a worthy opponent. Dmitry Bivol's team responds to Saul Canelo Alvarez's decision to forego a rematch by agreeing to a trilogy bout with Gennady Golovkin. Bivol's already planning his next bout after Canelo agreed to a trilogy fight with Gennady Golovkin later this year, putting a potential rematch on hold. The Russian defeated Canelo for the second time in his 61-fight career earlier this month in a unanimous decision victory to defend his WBA light heavyweight championship, with the weight increase proving too much for the Mexican. Canelo will now revert to super middleweight as the defending WBC, WBA, IBF, and WBO champion to fight Golovkin on September 17th, having won their rematch on points in 2018 following a controversial draw a year earlier. While it provides boxing with an eagerly anticipated trilogy, it also puts the Mexican's desire to make atonement on hold, leaving Bivol to continue his hunt for an opponent. Canelo definitely wants to face the Russian again, but it's unclear whether that fight would take place at 175 pounds this time. Up next, Savannah Marshall doesn't take kindly to accusations. Savannah Marshall has dismissed Clarissa Shields' assertion that she's faking her injuries in preparation for their undisputed middleweight title fight later this year. Shields, the WBA, WBC, and IBF middleweight champion, has questioned the severity of WBO title holder Marshall's arm surgery, calling it mind games to purchase more time. Shields and Marshall were supposed to fight in July, but their battle has been pushed back to early September. According to Marshall, Shields knew all about the injuries and was actually notified a month earlier. Of course, the fighter wants to take it slow and recover on her own time, and we wish her a speedy recovery. It seems that fans have to wait a while longer till we can see a clash between the two, which hopefully will be a banger. Lastly, need to feel fear, says Aussie as threat looms. The next leg in Liam Wilson's 10-1 7 KO journey to a world championship chance has been announced, with the Australian super featherweight set to face Argentine standout Matias Carlos Adrian Rueda 37-1 32 KO. Wilson's first bout as a headliner will take place on June 29th at the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre and will be broadcast live on Fox Sports. Wilson's fresh off a second-round knockout victory against Joe Neumann, in which he exacted vengeance on the Filipino star who entered the fight far above the weight restriction for their class. The Australian's victory propelled him up the world rankings, where he now ranks at number 6 with the WBO and number 15 with the IBF. However, the Queenslander wants to keep climbing the ranks, and in order to do so, he must defeat Rueda, the world number 8 and a man who has not lost since 2016. It will be Wilson's most difficult battle yet, but he and his team understand that these are the sorts of bouts he must face if he is to show his credentials as a world champion. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Haney will receive his dream of getting the 4 belts and truly be the undisputed lightweight champ? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.